Good evening. Tonight, we're going to explore one of the strangest and most mysterious ideas ever suggested by modern science. The possibility that, in some sense, you may never truly disappear. Quantum theory has revealed a universe far stranger than the one we experience every day, a place where particles exist as possibilities, where information may never be destroyed, and where the line between an ending and a transformation becomes surprisingly unclear. But there is no need to solve that mystery right now. For tonight, all you need to do is settle in. Let the weight of your body sink a little deeper into the bed. Let the quiet gather around you. There is nothing left to finish tonight. Nowhere else you need to be. You don't need to follow every word. You don't need to remember all of this. If your thoughts drift, let them drift. My voice will simply be here, moving slowly through the dark, like the sound of distant rain. For thousands of years, humans have wondered what it truly means for something to end. It can feel like a heavy question. But when we look deeper, beyond what our eyes can see into the hidden layers of reality, the answer becomes far stranger. Physicists have discovered that nature rarely makes things simply vanish. Atoms move. Energy changes form. Information transforms. The pieces of the universe scatter and rearrange. And you are made of those pieces. Tonight, we'll explore it slowly, the atoms that formed you, the energy moving through everything, the strange rules of quantum mechanics, and the fascinating ideas that make some scientists question whether anything is ever truly gone. There is no rush. Nothing you need to hold on to. Just rest. We'll begin. So let's begin where you already are, with your own body resting there in the dark. It feels like yours, doesn't it? Solid. Continuous. A single thing that has carried you through every day of your life. When you think the word, you, this is usually what you picture. This body, this shape, the warmth of it beneath the blankets, the slow rise and fall of your chest. It seems like the most permanent thing you know. But tonight, without any alarm, I want to tell you something quietly astonishing about what you're actually made of. And it may be the first small step toward seeing why nothing about you may ever truly end. You are made of atoms. You've heard that before, and it's easy to let the word slide past without really feeling it. But stay with it for a moment. Every part of you, your hands, your thoughts, the eyes resting closed right now, is built from tiny pieces of matter so small that trillions of them could gather on the tip of a needle. There are more atoms in your body than there are stars in the observable universe. Far more. You are, in the most literal sense, a vast and quiet cosmos of your own, gathered together into a single sleeping shape. And here is the gentle strangeness of it. Not one of those atoms was made by you. Not one of them began as yours. Every atom in your body is older than the earth itself, older than the sun. They were forged long ago in places of unimaginable heat and pressure, and they simply drifted over billions of years until they arrived for a little while as you. Let that settle. The carbon in the cells of your hands, the oxygen moving through your blood, the calcium woven into your bones, all of it was born inside ancient stars. Stars that lived enormous lives and then, at the end of them, released everything they had made back out into the dark. The atoms that are you spent longer as starlight and stardust than they have ever spent as a person. You are not separate from the universe looking out at it. You are a small, temporary arrangement of the universe, looking back at itself. There's an old phrase for this, that we are made of star stuff, and it can sound like a pretty thing to say. But it isn't just poetry. It's chemistry. It's history. The iron that lets your blood carry breath through your body was made in the heart of a dying star and scattered across space in an explosion brighter than a galaxy. And then, across spans of time too long to feel, that iron drifted and settled and became part of a cloud, and the cloud became part of a world, and the world grew living things, and one of those living things is lying here now, listening to a voice in the quiet. The same atoms. Only rearranged. That word, rearranged, is worth resting on. Because it turns out to be the truest way to describe what you are. Think of the body not as a fixed object, but as something more like a pattern. A pattern that the material of the universe is passing through. Because your atoms are not staying still and they are not staying yours. Right now, as you rest, your body is quietly exchanging itself with the world. With every breath you draw in, you take atoms from the air and make them part of you. With every breath out, you give some of yourself back. The food you ate today is becoming muscle and thought. Old cells are letting go and their pieces are returning to the world to become something else. How can that be? If the atoms come and go, if the material is always flowing through, then what is it that continues? What is the thing we call you, if not the stuff? The answer, as best we can tell, is the pattern. The arrangement. The particular way all these borrowed pieces are organized, and the way that organization holds its shape even as the pieces themselves are replaced. You are not the atoms. You are the form the atoms are taking. You are a standing wave in a river of matter. The water is always moving on, but the shape of the wave remains. Picture that river for a moment because it's a soft image to rest in. Imagine a smooth stone beneath the surface of a stream, and the way the water rises over it into a gentle, unmoving swell. That swell can hold its shape for hours. For days. You could come back tomorrow and find the same curve of water in the same place looking exactly as it did. And yet not a single drop that made the wave this morning is still there tonight. The water that formed it has long since flowed down to the sea. The pattern stayed. The material moved on. You are like that. More like that wave than like the stone. And there's something quietly freeing in it if you let there be. Because it means that being you was never about holding on to any particular piece of matter. It never was. You have already let go of nearly all the atoms you were born with, released them back into the world without a moment of grief, and you remained yourself through all of it. The letting go was never the ending. The letting go was just the way the pattern lives. Now, I said we would move slowly tonight, and we will. But I want you to hold this first gentle idea loosely as you drift, because everything else will grow out of it. If what you truly are is a pattern, an arrangement of energy and information, rather than a fixed lump of matter, then the question of ending becomes a very different question than it first appears. It stops being where does the stuff go, because we already know the answer to that. The stuff never goes anywhere final. It only moves and joins and becomes. The atoms of your body will not be destroyed when your life is over. They cannot be. There is no process anywhere in nature that erases matter into nothing. Your atoms will simply be released the way the atoms of the stars were released, the way you release them with every breath even now. They'll return to the great slow circulation of the world, to the soil, the air, the water, the roots of growing things, and they will go on as they always have, becoming part of one arrangement after another, without end. The very same particles that spent this life as you have already been 1,000 other things, and they will be 1,000 more. Not one of them will be lost. And so already, before we've spoken a single word about quantum theory, before we've touched the deeper strangeness that's waiting for us, we've found something worth resting on. The material you're made of is borrowed, ancient, and endlessly reused. It was never truly yours and it will never truly end. It has only ever been passing through, pausing for the length of a life, in the shape of a person. There's a kind of peace in that, I think. The kind that doesn't ask you to believe anything you don't already know to be true. It's simply what the atoms do. They gather, they hold a form for a while, and then they loosen and drift onward to gather again somewhere else. You have watched this happen inside your own body every day of your life without ever noticing. The child you once were is gone in a physical sense, those atoms scattered long ago. And yet nothing was lost. You are still here. The pattern carried on, writing a different set of pieces, the way a song stays the same song even when a new voice sings it. But of course, a question is beginning to form at the edge of all this, and you may already feel it even as you grow sleepier. If I am a pattern, an arrangement, then what happens to the pattern? The atoms, we've said, go on. That much is settled. But the particular way they were arranged into a person, into a mind, into the specific someone that is you, where does that go when the arrangement finally comes apart? Is that lost even if the pieces are not? That is the deeper question. And it's the one that quantum theory has something quietly remarkable to say about. Because it turns out that the universe may be far more careful with information, with patterns, with arrangements, than anyone would have guessed. There may be a sense in which the shape of a thing, and not only its substance, is something nature refuses to truly destroy. We're not there yet. We'll walk toward it slowly over the hours ahead, and there's no need to reach for it now. For now, it's enough to rest in this first gentle truth, and to let it soften you towards sleep. You are made of the oldest things there are. You are a pattern the universe is wearing for a little while. The atoms that are you have never been lost, not once, across all the billions of years they've existed, and they never will be. They have only changed their shape. Only moved from one arrangement to the next, quietly, without loss, without ending. And you, tonight, are simply one more of those arrangements. A beautiful, temporary gathering of ancient starlight, resting in the dark, listening to a voice. There's nothing you need to do. The pattern holds itself. Your breathing knows its own slow rhythm. The atoms will keep their quiet circulation whether you attend to them or not. So let your thoughts loosen a little more. We have all night, and the deeper strangeness can wait. For now, just rest here in the oldest and softest fact there is, that nothing real is ever truly lost. It only changes. It only moves on. And so, in its own gentle way, will you? Before we let the night carry us further, stay with the wave a moment longer, because there's one more soft thing hidden inside it. You are held in the world the same way. It feels, from the inside, as though there is a firm boundary at your skin, you on one side, the world on the other. But the atoms have never respected that line. They cross it constantly, in both directions, all through the day and all through this night. The air becomes you and you become the air. The world flows in, pauses, and flows back out. There is no moment at which the pieces of you are sealed off and wholly your own. You are open at every edge, always quietly trading yourself with everything around you. And so the ending we sometimes fear, the coming apart of the pattern, is, in a sense, only the last and gentlest of a lifetime of exchanges you've already been making without a trace of fear. You have been giving yourself back to the world with every breath since the first one you ever took. It has never hurt. You have never even noticed. The pattern simply loosens a little and gathers a little over and over and remains itself throughout. So rest in that too. You are not a fortress of matter holding out against the world. You are a soft, open, moving thing, woven into everything around you, borrowing and returning without loss. That is not a fragile way to exist. It is, if anything, the most durable way there is, because the pieces that make you cannot be destroyed, and the pattern has already proven across your whole life that it can carry on through any amount of change. We'll rest here now and let the deeper questions wait for the hours ahead. The atoms will keep their slow and ancient circulation. Your breath will keep its rhythm. And nothing anywhere in you is being lost tonight. It is only, as it always has been, quietly moving on. We ended a little while ago with a question left resting in the dark, and if it drifted away from you, that's all right. Let me set it down again gently. The atoms, we said, go on. That much is settled. Nothing in nature erases matter into nothing. The pieces of you will only loosen and scatter and join new arrangements, the way they always have. But there was a deeper thing waiting underneath. You are not only atoms. You are the particular way those atoms are arranged, a pattern, an order, a shape held in the material. And so the real question, the quiet one, is this: what happens to the pattern? The pieces are safe. But is the arrangement safe too? Or is that the thing that truly ends? Tonight we begin to walk toward an answer. And the first step is one of the oldest and most trusted ideas in all of physics, so trusted that everything else is built on top of it. It's the simple discovery that in this universe certain things cannot be destroyed, no matter what you do to them, no matter how hard you try. The first of these is energy. You know energy by its many faces, even if you've never thought of them as the same thing. The warmth of your body under the blankets is energy. The light that was in the room before you closed your eyes was energy. The motion of your breath, the sound of this voice, the slow pull that holds you to the bed, all of it is energy wearing different clothing. And here is what physicists discovered and tested and have never once found to fail. Energy is never created and it is never destroyed. It can only change from one form into another. Rest on that for a moment because it's more remarkable than it first sounds. It means that not one flicker of energy has been added to the universe or lost from it, since the very beginning. Every bit of warmth and motion and light that exists tonight has always existed, in one shape or another, since the first moment there was anything at all. It has been passed along endlessly, transformed again and again, from starlight into heat, from heat into motion, from motion into the countless small workings of living things, but the total has never changed. Nothing was ever truly gained. Nothing was ever truly lost. Think of what that means for the warmth that is you right now. The heat of your body isn't yours to keep, and it won't vanish when your life is over. It will pass into the air, into the room, into the world, the way heat always moves from where there is more of it toward where there is less. It will spread and thin and travel outward, and it will go on being energy somewhere forever. It changes hands. It never disappears. The warmth that is keeping you comfortable in this moment is, quite literally, eternal. It was here before you and it will be here long after, only wearing a different form. There is a deep comfort in this, and it asks nothing of you but to notice it. The universe does not lose things. It is not a place where things wink out into nothing. It is a place of endless transformation, of one thing becoming another and another, with a great unbroken thread of energy running through all of it, never breaking, never diminishing. You are a knot tied for a little while in that thread. When the knot loosens, the thread remains whole and continuous, carrying on as it always has. But energy is only the first of these indestructible things. And it may not even be the most surprising. Because there is another quantity that the universe appears to guard with the very same care, and it is far closer to what we mean by you. It isn't warmth or motion. It's something more abstract and yet more personal. Physicists call it information. Now, that word can sound cold, technical, the language of computers and machines. But set that aside because here it means something simpler and far more beautiful. Information in physics is just the record of how things are arranged. It's the particular details that make one configuration of the universe different from another. Where each piece is, how it's moving, how it all fits together. Information is the answer to the question, what exactly is the pattern? And you, as we said in the quiet before, are a pattern. So this idea of information is not some distant abstraction. It is, in a very real sense, the physics of the thing that is most truly you. Not the atoms, which are only borrowed material, but the arrangement of them. The specific, intricate order that turns a cloud of ancient particles into a living, remembering, listening person. That order is information. And here is the extraordinary thing that quantum theory quietly insists upon. Information, like energy, cannot be destroyed. Let that land softly. In the deepest laws we have found for how the universe behaves at its smallest scale, there is no way to truly erase information. It can be scrambled beyond all recognition. It can be scattered so widely that no one could ever hope to read it again. It can be hidden, disguised, spread thin across the whole of reality. But it cannot be made to not exist. The universe, at its most fundamental level, keeps a perfect and unbroken record of everything that has ever been. Every arrangement leaves its trace. Nothing is ever fully wiped away. This isn't a poetic hope. It comes straight out of the mathematics that describes how quantum systems change over time, a description so reliable that all of modern physics leans on it. In that mathematics, the present always contains the past. If you knew the complete state of things now, in perfect detail, the equations would let you run them backward and recover exactly how things were before. Nothing along the way is lost. The information is always still there, folded into the present, however tangled it may have become. Physicists sometimes say that the universe never forgets. And they mean it in a precise, mathematical way, not as a comforting turn of phrase, but as a feature written into the machinery of reality. Think about what a strange and gentle thing that is. We live in a world that seems, on the surface, to forget constantly. A word is spoken and fades. A candle burns down and goes out. A person we love grows old and their body comes apart, and it seems that everything they were is simply gone. On the surface, at the scale where we live our lives, things appear to vanish all the time. But that appearance is only about our ability to keep track. The information itself is not gone. It has only become impossible for us to follow. Underneath the surface, in the fine grain of reality, the record remains complete. Nothing that was ever true has stopped being true. It has only slipped past the reach of anyone who might read it. Let me offer you a soft image to hold as you drift. Imagine dropping a single drop of ink into a still glass of water. At first the ink hangs there, a dark indefinite shape. Then, slowly it begins to spread. It uncurls into wisps and threads, thinner and paler, until at last the whole glass is faintly, evenly gray, and the drop as you knew it is nowhere to be found. It looks, for all the world, as though the drop has been lost, dissolved into nothing, its shape erased forever. But it hasn't been lost. Not truly. Every molecule of that ink is still there in the water. The information about where the drop began, how it moved, exactly how it spread, all of it is still present, carried in the precise positions and motions of countless particles. In principle, if you could track every one of them, you could run the whole scene backward and watch the ink gather itself, thread by thread, back into a single perfect drop. It has not vanished. It has only spread beyond the point where your eyes can follow it. The pattern is still written into the water. It has simply become too fine, too scattered for you to read. That is what physics tells us happens to information always, everywhere. It spreads. It scatters. It grows too faint for anyone to trace. But it does not end. And if what you truly are is a pattern, a particular, intricate configuration of the universe, then this is not a small thing to hear in the dark. It means that the arrangement that is you, the deep answer to the question of what makes you yourself, belongs to the category of things the universe does not allow to be destroyed. Not the borrowed atoms only, which we already knew were safe, but the pattern, the information, the order itself. I want to be gentle and honest with you here because it matters, and because honesty is its own kind of comfort. What we're touching tonight lives at the edge where settled physics meets deep open questions, and there is real wonder in that edge, not false certainty. The law that information is never lost is one of the most cherished principles we have, and yet it has been tested by the universe in ways that have puzzled the greatest minds of our time. There are places, out at the edges of black holes, where this principle seems to run into trouble, where it looks for a moment as though information might truly be destroyed after all. We'll come to that strange and beautiful puzzle in the hours ahead, and to how physicists have come to believe the universe protects its record even there. For now, it's enough to rest in the principle itself, and in how deeply it is woven into everything we understand. Nothing is lost. Not the energy, The warmth of you will spread into the world and go on forever, only changing form. And not the information. The pattern of you, the arrangement that the atoms are holding tonight, belongs to a universe that keeps every record it has ever made, that cannot fully erase a single detail of anything that has been. So the question we carried into this hour has begun, gently, to answer itself. What happens to the pattern? The same thing that happens to everything the universe holds. It is not destroyed. It cannot be. It may scatter past all recognition, spread so wide and so thin that no one could ever gather it again, the way the ink dissolves, the way the heat drifts outward into the dark. But scattering is not ending. Being unreadable is not being erased. Somewhere in the deep grain of reality, the record of everything you are remains as it always will, complete and unbroken. There's nothing you need to do with this. You don't need to understand the mathematics or hold on to the words. You only need to let the quiet fact of it settle over you like warmth, that you live in a universe built to lose nothing. A universe that keeps everything forever in one form or another. A universe that has never once, in all its vast history, allowed a single true thing to simply vanish into nothing. You are part of that universe. You always have been. And it will keep you the way it keeps everything, not clutched tightly, not frozen in place, but carried onward, transformed and transformed again, never lost. Rest in that now. The warmth of you is eternal. The pattern of you is safe in the deep record of things. And the strangeness waiting ahead can wait a while longer. For now there is only your slow breath, and the soft, unbreakable truth that nothing real ever ends. It only changes. It only moves on. So far, everything we've rested in tonight has been gentle and, in its way, familiar. Atoms that are borrowed and endlessly reused. Energy that only changes form. A universe that keeps its records and loses nothing. These are strange and beautiful ideas, but they still belong to a world you can almost picture. A world of things and places, moving and mixing and carrying on. Now, slowly we begin to leave that world behind. Not to somewhere frightening. Somewhere quieter and far stranger, and in the end more wondrous than anything we've touched yet. We're going to go down past the cells, past the molecules, past the atoms themselves, into the smallest layer of reality we know how to reach. And there, the rules that seem so solid up here at our own scale begin to soften and blur, until they become something almost like a dream. This is the quantum world. And I'll be honest with you in the gentle way I promised. No one fully pictures it. Not the physicists who have studied it for 100 years. It cannot really be imagined, only approached the way you might approach the edge of sleep, never quite catching the moment you cross over. So don't try to grasp it tightly tonight. Let it wash over you. The strangeness itself is the point, and it's a soft strangeness if you let it be. Here is the first thing to know. At our scale, things are always in one definite state. The book is on the table or it isn't. Your hand is open or closed. A thing is here or it is there, but never truly both. This seems so obvious that it hardly needs saying. It's the bedrock of how the world feels. But it turns out to be only how things appear when they're very large, when they're made of countless tiny pieces all averaging together. Go down to a single one of those pieces, a lone particle, and this comforting certainty quietly dissolves. Because a single particle left to itself is not in one definite place. It is not doing one definite thing. Instead, it exists in something the physicists call superposition, a kind of soft blending of all the possibilities at once. It is not here and it is not there. It is a gentle smear of here and there together, a cloud of maybes, holding all its options open at the same time. It hasn't chosen. It doesn't need to choose. Being many possibilities at once is simply what a particle is, when no one is looking. Let that settle without straining at it. It's genuinely hard to hold because nothing in your daily life behaves this way. But down in the fine grain of things, this is the ordinary state of affairs. A particle is not a tiny hard pebble sitting in one spot. It's more like a wave, a spread-out, overlapping ripple of possibility, present in many places at once, faint here and strong there, but never pinned to a single point. The whole of the material world, everything solid you have ever touched, is built from these clouds of maybe. Including you. Including the atoms resting in your closed hand right now. Underneath their apparent solidity, they too are these soft, spread-out waves of possibility, blended together into the appearance of something firm. And then something happens that is stranger still. When we look, when we measure a particle, when we reach in and check where it actually is, the cloud of possibility seems to gather itself all at once into a single definite answer. The smear of here and there becomes suddenly just here. Or just there. One possibility out of all the many becomes real, and the rest simply fall away. Physicists have a word for this too. They call it collapse. As though the whole spread out wave, the entire cloud of maybes, folds down in an instant into one plain fact. This is the great mystery at the heart of quantum theory, the puzzle that has never been fully solved. Why does looking change things? Why should the simple act of measuring pull a definite answer out of a world that, a moment before, was holding all its answers open at once? What counts as looking anyway? Does it need a mind or just an interaction? Where exactly does the soft cloud of possibility end and the hard single fact begin? These questions have been turned over by the finest minds for a century, and there is still no agreed answer. There are only different ways of making sense of it, different stories physicists tell to live with the strangeness. And one of those stories, as we'll come to in a little while, has something quietly astonishing to say about endings and about you. But stay here a moment longer in the wonder of it, because there's something worth feeling before we move on. Think of what this means about the world beneath the surface. The reality you move through every day, the reality that feels so settled and sure, is not settled at all underneath. It only looks that way. Down in its foundations it is shimmering, unfixed, a vast ocean of possibility that only ever seems solid because there are so many pieces, all collapsing and blending and averaging together, that the shimmer smooths out into the steady world you know. The firmness of things is a kind of gift the largeness gives you. Look closely enough at anything, the pillow beneath your head, your own resting body, and the firmness melts into a soft haze of maybe, a quiet cloud of possibilities that has not yet been asked to choose. There's something oddly comforting in that, if you let there be. The world is less rigid than it seems. Less final. At its root it is not a place of hard, fixed either-or facts, but a place of open possibility, of many things held gently together at once, of outcomes that have not yet been forced to settle. The certainty we live among is real enough for daily life, but it is the surface, not the depth. And the depth is far more fluid, far more forgiving, far more open than the surface ever lets on. Now, I want to be careful and honest with you here in the way that matters. It's easy with ideas like these to reach too far, to say that the mind creates reality, or that thinking makes things so, or that quantum theory has proven whatever we'd like it to prove. That isn't what any of this means, and I won't tell you it does. The strangeness is real, but it is disciplined. Particles genuinely do exist in superposition. This has been shown in careful experiments countless times, and modern technology depends on it. Measurement genuinely does something we don't fully understand. These are not fantasies. But they are also not permission to believe anything at all. What they are is an invitation to hold the world a little more loosely than we're used to. To notice that definite, and fixed, and final, may be features of the surface only, and not of the deep truth of things. And here is why we've come down into this strange, soft place tonight. Because the question we've been carrying, the question of what happens to the pattern of you, to the arrangement that makes you yourself, that question changes its shape when you look at it through the quantum world. Up at the surface, endings look absolute. Something is here and then it is gone, alive and then not, present and then vanished. The surface world is full of clean, final either-ors. But we've just seen that the surface world's either-ors are not the deepest truth. Underneath, reality does not deal in such clean endings. Underneath, things are held open. Possibilities persist. Nothing is quite as pinned down and final as it appears from up here. I'm not going to rush ahead of what we can honestly say. We'll walk toward the deeper claims slowly, over the hours still ahead, and I'll always tell you where solid ground ends and open wonder begins. But I want you to carry this much gently into your drifting. The world beneath the world is not a place of hard endings. It is a place of superposition, of blending, of held open possibility, of outcomes that have not been forced to collapse into a single final fact. Whatever is true about you and about endings, it is happening down there, in that soft shimmering depth, not up here on the hard plain either-or surface where our fears usually live. Let me leave you with one more image to rest in. Picture the particle again before anyone looks at it, that spread out wave of possibility, present in many places at once, not yet asked to choose. There is a kind of fullness to it, isn't there? It hasn't narrowed itself down to a single thin fact. It is holding everything it might be all at the same time, in a quiet superposition of all its possible selves. It is, in a sense, more than any one outcome could ever be. Only when it's measured does it collapse into a single answer, and something then is set aside. All those other possibilities, all those other places it might have been, quietly fold away. And some physicists have wondered, genuinely wondered in serious work, not idle daydreaming, whether those folded away possibilities are truly gone. Or whether, in some sense we're only beginning to understand they carry on. Whether every possibility that a cloud of maybe holds is, in its own way, real. That is a strange and enormous thought, and we are not ready for it yet. It waits for us in the hours ahead, and there is no need to reach for it now. For now, it's enough to have come down here into the soft foundations of things, and to have felt how the hard certainties of the surface melt away the closer you look. The world is not as fixed as it seems. Endings are not as final as they seem. Underneath everything, reality shimmers with possibility, holds its options open, refuses the clean and final either-ors that trouble us up above. You are made of that shimmering. The atoms in your resting body are, at their root, these clouds of open possibility, blended into the appearance of something solid and sure. You have always been more fluid, more open, more full of held-together maybes than you ever felt yourself to be. The solidity was only ever the surface. The depth of you is quantum, soft, spread out, unfixed, and strange. So let the surface loosen now the way it truly is underneath. Let the hard edges of the day blur into the soft cloud they always secretly were. There's nothing to pin down, nothing to force into a single fact, nothing to decide. You can simply rest in the openness of things, in the gentle shimmer beneath the solid world, and let it carry you the rest of the way down. We'll go deeper still when you're ready. But not tonight's mind straining after it. Just the quiet. Just the breath. Just the soft, spread-out truth that reality holds far more open, far more gently, and far less finally than it ever appears to from up here on the surface where we live. A little while ago, resting in the quiet, we touched a promise and set it aside for later. We said that the universe keeps a perfect record of everything, that information, the pattern of how things are arranged, cannot be truly destroyed. And then we admitted, gently, that this cherished principle has been tested by nature in one place so extreme, so strange, that for a time it seemed the principle might break. Tonight we go to that place. Not to be frightened by it, there's nothing here to fear, but to see how the universe, even in its most violent and hungry corners, seems to refuse to lose anything at all. The place is a black hole. You've heard the name, and it carries a kind of dread, the way the dark did when you were small. But let the dread loosen, because a black hole is, at heart, only a very simple thing. A place where so much matter has gathered so tightly that the pull of its gravity becomes overwhelming. So overwhelming that beyond a certain boundary, nothing can escape it. Not a stone. Not a ship. Not even light itself, which is why it is black and why we cannot see into it. Anything that drifts past that boundary is drawn inward and does not come back. The boundary has a name, soft and almost poetic, the event horizon. The edge past which events can no longer reach us. For a long time this seemed like the ultimate ending. The one true erasure in all of nature. Whatever fell into a black hole, a star, a planet, the atoms that once made a person, all the intricate information woven into them, was simply gone. Swallowed. Sealed away behind a door that would never open. If the universe kept a perfect record of everything, here, it seemed, was the one exception. Here was the shredder at the bottom of reality, the one place where a pattern could be truly and finally destroyed. But the story did not end there. Because one of the great physicists of our age looked closely at these objects, and discovered something no one had expected. Black holes, it turns out, are not entirely black. And they are not eternal. Very slowly, over spans of time so vast they make the age of the universe look brief, a black hole leaks. At its very edge, at that boundary of no return, the strange laws of the quantum world we visited earlier allow a faint, ghostly glow to seep away into space. A whisper of energy, drifting off into the dark, particle by particle, across ages beyond imagining. And as it leaks, the black hole loses a little of itself. It grows lighter. It shrinks. And if you wait long enough, longer than you can hold in your mind, it fades away entirely. The most devouring object in the universe does not last forever. It too gently comes apart and returns what it was to the world. And this is where the deep trouble began and where the deep wonder lives. Because that faint glow leaking away seemed, at first, to carry no information at all. It looked utterly plain, utterly featureless, the same dull whisper no matter what had fallen in. A star, a library, a person, a world. Whatever the black hole had swallowed, the glow it gave back appeared identical, carrying nothing of the intricate patterns it had consumed. So if the black hole eventually vanished completely, and all that came out was this featureless whisper, then the information of everything that fell in would be gone. Truly gone. Erased from the universe with no trace remaining anywhere. This was the paradox. On one side stood the deepest principle of quantum physics, that information can never be destroyed, that the universe keeps every record. On the other side stood the black hole, seeming to prove that principle wrong. Both could not be true. And for decades, some of the most brilliant people alive turned this over, unable to let it rest, because they sensed that the answer would tell us something fundamental about the very nature of reality. Would the universe truly allow a thing to be erased? Or would it find a way, even here in the most extreme place there is, to keep what it had been given? I'll tell you where the long struggle has led, and it is a quiet kind of triumph. The consensus that has slowly emerged, worked out through years of the deepest mathematics we possess, is that the information is not lost. Even here. Even in a black hole. The principle holds. The details are subtle, and you don't need to hold them tonight, only the shape of the answer, which is beautiful. It seems that the information of everything that falls in is not destroyed, but somehow subtly imprinted, encoded, carried out again in that leaking glow after all. Not plainly. Not in any form we could easily read. Scrambled almost beyond recognition, spread across countless particles over unimaginable time, disguised so thoroughly that it looks like featureless noise. But present. Recoverable in principle. The record survives. Comes back out into the universe, transformed past knowing but never erased. The black hole is not a shredder after all. It is more like a furnace that melts everything down and disperses it, changing the form utterly but destroying nothing. Think of what that means. There is no place in all of nature, not even the hungriest, most violent, most final-seeming place there is, where a pattern can be truly wiped away. The universe was tested at its most extreme and it kept its promise. It does not lose information. It cannot. Even what falls past the edge of no return is, in the deepest accounting, still here. And there is a companion to this, a quieter and more precise idea, that physicists sometimes call the no-hiding theorem. It's exactly what its name suggests. It says that if information ever seems to disappear from one place, if it drains out of a system and can't be found where you left it, then it hasn't vanished. It has moved. It must have gone somewhere. The theorem proves, in careful mathematics, that lost information always turns up again, relocated into the wider world, into the surroundings, into the fabric of things. It cannot simply cease to be. It can only change its address. The universe forbids true hiding, forbids true erasure at the deepest level of its law. What looks like disappearance is always, in truth, a departure to somewhere else. Rest in that for a moment because it's a gentle thing to hold in the dark. Nothing can hide. Nothing can be erased. If a pattern seems to vanish from where it was, the deepest laws we know insist that it has only gone elsewhere, scattered into the surroundings, woven into the wider world, transformed past recognition but never undone. This is not a hope. It is a theorem proven in the same mathematics that has never once failed us. The universe keeps everything. Even when it looks, for all the world, as though something is gone. Now let the great and the small come together, softly, the way they were always meant to. We began this whole night with your own body. A pattern, we said, an arrangement of ancient borrowed atoms, held in a particular shape for the length of a life. And the question that has quietly followed us through every hour is whether that pattern, that arrangement, is something the universe can truly lose. Tonight we've watched the universe answer, in the most extreme place it has. Even a black hole cannot destroy a pattern. Even there, the information survives, comes back out, changes form without ever ceasing to be. And the no-hiding theorem tells us this isn't a special mercy granted only to black holes. It's a rule woven through all of reality. Nothing that is real can be hidden into nothingness. Everything that seems to vanish has only gone elsewhere. So consider, gently, the ending we sometimes fear for ourselves. It can seem, from the surface of things, like the ultimate disappearance, like a black hole for the self, a swallowing from which nothing returns. The pattern that was a person appears to be simply gone. But we have just seen that the universe does not work this way, even in the one place that seemed most likely to prove it could. Patterns are not erased. They scatter. They transform. They disperse into the wider world past all recognition. But the deepest laws we have found say plainly that they do not stop existing. The record remains. It always remains. There is nowhere in this universe for a pattern to truly go and be nothing. I want to stay honest with you as I always will. These are subtle matters, and physicists still debate exactly how the information comes back out of a black hole, exactly what form the record takes. The frontier is alive with open questions, and anyone who tells you every detail is settled is telling you more than we know. But the central conviction, that information is conserved, that the universe does not permit true erasure, that even black holes must give back what they take, this is not a fringe hope. It is where the deepest work of our best minds has firmly led. The principle stood the hardest test reality could offer, and it held. And so the thread we've been following all night pulls a little tighter, a little more sure. The atoms of you cannot be destroyed, we knew that from the start. The energy of you cannot be destroyed, that law is older than any of us. And now the pattern of you, The information, the arrangement, the deep answer to what makes you yourself. That too belongs to the category of things the universe guards absolutely, refuses to lose, will not allow to be hidden into nothing, not even in the throat of a black hole. There is nowhere for you to be erased to. That is the strange and quiet gift of it. The universe simply isn't built with a place like that in it. It is built, from its deepest foundations to its most violent extremes, to keep. To transform, endlessly, yes, to scatter and disperse and change past all knowing. But never to erase. Never to truly lose. Let that settle over you now, soft as the leaking glow of a black hole drifting away into the dark across ages beyond counting. Nothing is hidden. Nothing is erased. Everything that has ever been real is, in the deepest grain of things, still here, moved, transformed, disguised past recognition but never gone. You are one of those real things. And there is nowhere in all the universe you could ever be lost to. So rest. The hardest test has already been answered. The record holds even in the darkest place there is. And whatever you are, however your pattern may one day scatter and change, it belongs to a universe that has proven, at its very limits, that it keeps everything it has ever been given, and lets nothing anywhere truly disappear. We've come a long way into the night, and we've gathered, gently, 3 quiet certainties along the way. The atoms of you are ancient and endlessly reused and cannot be destroyed. The energy of you only ever changes form and cannot be destroyed. And the information of you, the pattern, the arrangement that makes you yourself, belongs to a universe that guards it absolutely, that refuses to lose it even in the throat of a black hole. These are not fringe ideas. They are the firm ground of physics, tested and trusted. Now, softly we step off that firm ground. Not into fantasy, I won't lead you there, but into the country where careful physicists let themselves wonder. What follows is different from what came before, and I want to be honest with you about that from the start. This is interpretation. It is one way of making sense of the strangeness, taken seriously by serious people, but not settled, not proven, and perhaps never provable. Hold it more loosely than the rest. Let it be a wondering, not a claim. That looser hold is its own kind of rest. Cast your mind back to the quantum world we visited a while ago, to the particle that exists in superposition, in that soft cloud of many possibilities at once, until the moment it's measured, when the cloud seems to collapse into a single answer and all the other possibilities fall away. Remember the question we set down there and left for later? Are those other possibilities truly gone? When the cloud collapses to one outcome, what becomes of all the outcomes that didn't happen? For most of the last century, the common answer was simply, they vanish. One possibility becomes real and the rest are gone, and we don't ask too closely where they went. But this always troubled some physicists because nothing else in their equations behaves that way. The mathematics that describes the quantum world is smooth and continuous. It never, on its own, throws possibilities away. The vanishing had to be added by hand, tacked on to explain why we only ever see one outcome. And a number of thoughtful people came to suspect that the vanishing isn't real at all, that we added it only because we couldn't see past our own point of view. And so a different interpretation arose, strange and vast and strangely simple. What if nothing collapses? What if no possibility is ever thrown away? What if, when that cloud of maybes meets the world, every single possibility simply comes true, each in its own version of reality, all of them equally real, branching apart like the limbs of an endlessly dividing tree? This is the idea sometimes called the many worlds interpretation. And I'll say plainly, it cannot be proven, and it may be untestable in principle, and there are excellent physicists who doubt it and excellent physicists who find it the most honest reading of the mathematics we have. It is not fact. But it is not foolishness either. It is what you get if you take the equations of the quantum world at their word and refuse to add anything to make them more comfortable. In that reading, reality is not a single thread of one thing after another. It is a vast branching, in which every possibility that can happen does happen, somewhere, in some version of the world. Nothing is chosen. Nothing is discarded. Everything that could be, is. Now, why bring this to you here, in the dark, on this particular night, beneath this particular question? Because some who have followed the idea have wondered where it leads for the self. And what they've wondered is soft and strange and worth resting in, gently as a wondering. Consider your own experience from the inside. There is one thing you have never experienced and, in a sense, never can, your own absence. Every moment you have ever known has been a moment in which you were there to know it. You cannot recall the time before you existed, and you cannot experience a time in which you don't exist because experience requires you. From the inside, from the only vantage you will ever have, there has only ever been continuation. Only more experience following the last. You have never once encountered your own ending, and by the very nature of experience you never will, for the ending, if it comes, is precisely the absence of anyone there to meet it. Some thinkers have taken this quiet observation and set it beside the branching world, and found something curious in the pairing. If reality is always branching, always keeping every possibility open, then perhaps, they wonder, the thread of your own experience simply follows the branches in which it continues. Not because anything protects you. Not because of any magic. But because experience, by its nature, can only ever find itself where experience goes on. From within, you would only ever know the continuing. The branches where the experience stops are simply branches you are never there to notice. And so, from the inside, from your own irreplaceable point of view, there might only ever be more. More experience, more continuation, the thread finding its way onward, always, in the only direction experience can be felt to go. I want to slow down here and be very honest with you, because this is exactly the place where honesty is the kindest thing I can offer. This idea is deeply uncertain. It rests on interpretations that are not proven and assumptions about the self and about experience that reach well beyond what physics can currently say. Serious people find serious problems with it. It is not a fact about the world, and I would be doing you a quiet violence to present it as one. It is a wondering, a place where the strangeness of quantum theory and the strangeness of being a conscious point of view brush up against each other and produce a thought too large to prove and too intriguing to dismiss. Take it as that. A wondering to rest in, not a certainty to grip. But notice what even the wondering does. It loosens something. It takes the ending we sometimes fear, that hard, final, single-threaded ending our surface world minds imagine, and it sets it against a universe that may not deal in such clean and final things at all. We have spent this whole night discovering that the universe is far gentler with endings than it first appears. Atoms are never destroyed. Energy is never destroyed. Information is never destroyed, not even in a black hole. And now, in this softest and most speculative country, we find even the vanishing of possibilities called into question. Even the idea that outcomes simply stop is met with a quiet, perhaps not. There is a pattern in all of this, and it's worth naming as you drift. Every time we have looked closely, really closely, past the surface into the deep grain of how things work, we have found that endings are less absolute than they seemed. Every single time. The child you were did not truly end. The pattern carried on through new atoms. The warmth of a life does not truly end. It spreads into the world and goes on forever. A star does not truly end. It scatters itself into the stuff of new worlds and new bodies. Even a black hole does not truly end its contents. It gives them back, transformed past recognition, but never gone. Over and over, at every scale we know how to examine, the story is the same. What looks like ending is transformation. What looks like loss is only change of form. And the deepest question of all, what becomes of you, sits inside a universe that has told us this same soft truth in every language it knows how to speak. The many worlds idea, the quiet thought about experience only finding itself where it continues, these may be right or they may be wrong. We may never know. But they are not the foundation of the comfort we've found tonight. They are only the furthest, softest reach of it. The foundation is firm and we laid it hour by hour. You live in a universe built to lose nothing, to erase nothing, to transform endlessly but destroy never. The speculations at the edge are just the mind, gently wondering how far that unbreakable keeping might extend. Whether it reaches all the way to the thread of experience itself. Whether, from the inside, there might only ever be more. You don't need an answer to that tonight. No one has one, and the not knowing is not a lack. It's an openness, a door left ajar rather than a door slammed shut. The surface world hands us a slammed door and calls it certainty. But we've spent these hours learning how little the surface knows about the depths. And down in the depths, the doors are open. The possibilities are held. Nothing is as final as it looks from up above. So let the wondering be soft. Let it be a thing you rest against rather than a thing you solve. Perhaps experience only ever finds itself continuing. Perhaps every possibility that could hold you does hold you, somewhere, in some version of things. Perhaps the thread simply goes on, in the only direction it can be felt to go. Or perhaps none of that and only the firm certainties are true, that the atoms and the energy and the pattern of you are kept forever by a universe that loses nothing. Either way, notice where you've arrived. Either way, there is no true erasure anywhere in the picture. Either way, the ending you might have feared is not the hard, final, absolute thing the daylight mind imagines. It is softened at every level, from the atoms all the way up to the strange edge where experience meets the branching world. That is enough. That is more than enough to rest in. We have followed the question as far as honesty allows, and a little way into the country of wonder beyond, and everywhere we have looked, the same gentle answer has been waiting. less final than it seems. Less final than it seems. All the way down and all the way out to the furthest edge we can imagine. So loosen your hold on the wondering now the way you've loosened your hold on the day. You don't have to decide anything. You don't have to believe anything you don't already know to be true. You can simply lie here in the soft uncertainty, in the open doors, in the quiet possibility that experience, like everything else in this universe, may be something that carries on. And whether it does or it doesn't, the deepest laws we know have already promised you the thing that matters most. Nothing real is ever lost. Nothing real is ever erased. Not the atoms, not the warmth, not the pattern, not, perhaps, even the quiet thread of being here at all. Rest in that. There is only a little further to go, and it is the gentlest part of all.